Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. So if you'd like to call us, that's the best time to call because that's when we're here. Telephone number to call, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line 605-477-3249. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Doc Ram's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Milker. Welcome, Rick.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. I noticed your show. Yeah, just made it. I know exactly what that looked like. Sliding in the chair.
Yeah, yeah. Sliding in. That's exactly what happened. So I was chatting with Jason, and I was telling him that I was going to discuss this book that I actually am writing, and I wanted to discuss it with you. And I said, and one of the things that one of the topics of the book actually is pens and pencils, believe it or not. And he kind of got a chuckle out of that. And I said, so I'd love to hear your comments, Jason, after you hear it, but I got to get one. I've got to get a pen right now. And the intro was playing, and I raced off and grabbed a pen, and here I am back in the studio. So that's what happened. So, Rick, I've decided that, quite a while ago, I wanted to write a book. And the book would be the way I do things, my approach to life and on many, many levels. So we could call it, Vinny's Way, Lessons from Vinny, something like that. And so would it be okay with you if I read some of the topics of how I do things? Not how I do them, because that'll take probably 7 years. Because these are all the things that we've talked about over the years with stories that I've told about how I do things. Is it okay with you if I read these? And I'd like to hear your opinion as to what you think of the contents of what this book would be. Based on each one of these titles will have hints, tips, tricks, things that I've learned, things that work, things that don't work, things you should do, things that you should not do, based on my 67 years of experience. Is that okay with you if I read these?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Help yourself. Go for
it.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll call these, and these are like, some of these are chapters, some of these are categories, some of these are items. They're all mixed together because I just wrote them down as they came to me, and I was writing as fast as I could. So here they are: plumbing, electrical, food. And in food, there's long-term storage food, best buy, best value, clothing, how to select clothing, automobiles, farming, electronics, economics and taxes, entertainment, off-grid living, which includes solar.
I have a title for you right now.
Okay.
No whining. No whining.
I wrote it down. No whining.
Hey, that's the title. And the one we should have done was kids say the darndest things.
Yeah, Art Linkletter did it first, though.
Well, no. Yeah, that's history. You and that part of when we did our early radio together resonated with you and Norm Shealy and others, John Regan. That was really something, because kids are actually smarter than we are. And while you can go off on your history of why I don't like this mechanic and I love this kind of banana, some of those questions those kids asked were really more thought-provoking and have stayed with me like glue.
Yeah.
Since then. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think your title should be something on the topics you're going to do. Yep. I think it should be no whining. You can have a subtitle down below, but no whining. Black.
Okay. Well, I wrote that down, and I highlighted it in yellow at the top of the page. Let's see. Farming, electronics, economics, taxes, entertainment, off-grid living. That's solar, roof racks, generators. Off-grid switching between on and off-grid. How to make your own switches. Saving energy. Countertops. Buying furniture. I mentioned clothing. That would be the type and style of clothing.
Now,
motor
with
oils.
that title, with it, the picture on the cover should be you in a gorilla costume doing a lap dance.
Motor oils. Things not to do. Communications and telephones.
That's a good one, yeah.
Traveling. Okay. Gas versus diesel. Guns. Selling your house. Tools to consider. Tools in your car. Power tools. Gardening. Gold and silver. Decision making. Starting a business. Computers. Home design. Pens and pencils. You know, the ones that I think are the best value, the best way to go, and why.
Does that have anything to do with lead? Lead in your pencil? No, I just, that.
Well, Dixon makes the finest number 2 pencil, the Dixon Ticonderoga, hands down. The Chinese pencils are garbage. Okay? They use synthetic wood. I don't even know what it is, but it doesn't sharpen right.
The wood that's used is incense cedar. Is the specific kind of wood that's used in our pencils. A number 2 pencil is incense cedar.
Mm-hmm. And then the Ticonderoga Dixon's Ticonderoga is the best pencil I think you can get for your money. Then ohms, volts, amps, and watts. Spare parts. More miles per gallon. Faucets, ladders, toilets, ham radio, refrigerators and freezers. Building your own home. Coffee pots and coffee makers. Dogs and cats. Now, I'm talking about how to select them. Dog and cat food. Books. How to buy books. What books to buy. Door locks. How to make them more secure. Simply. How to pick locks. Old-time medicine potions. Buying a farm. Buying a car. Buying appliances. Flooring.
Didn't they call that Farmer's Almanac?
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I haven't seen one.
I don't know, man.
Well, there's no weather in here. I'm not predicting the weather.
Well, no, but, the old sage advice of the old hag lady that would tell you how to do it.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Taxes. Yeah, how to avoid paying taxes legally. Insurance. How to get the best value on insurance. Friends. What are friends? Activism. That's something I've learned a little bit about. How to negotiate. Septic systems. Security systems. Biological and electronic. I'm sorry, what was that? Bookshelves. Wired versus wireless. Homeschooling. Water filtration and water treatment. Heating systems. Lighting systems. Stereo systems. Insulation. Building an automotive shop. Max's Law. Minimax Regret. Swimming pools. Those are the highlights. So, conspiracy theories and facts. The police, spying technologies, privacy, and the fine print. So those are the areas, categories, and items. What are your thoughts? What suggestions you have? I'm writing it down.
Well, you just start doing it, and you compile them in over a period of days, months, years. Then you go through and weed. I would like to recommend a movie I saw 2 nights ago that has just floored me with the sincerity and quality of acting. It's called Green Book. And I cannot recommend that movie to further. I believe it deserves Academy Awards. The acting between the two individuals in that movie were so exceptional. It was like a snapshot of that moment. That's what your book is going to try to do. You're going to try to capture a style of way of being, and why you do it this way over that way. And that is what this movie was about. It's called Green Book. And basically what the Green Book was is where you could find a hotel for blacks back in 1960. It's
Wow.
You haven't even heard of it, have you? The movie?
Yeah, yes. It's a 2018.
Okay,
it's a 2018 movie, based on the 1960s.
Yeah, and it's a true story.
In the Deep South.
Yes, and it's a true story about a true genius prodigy, black prodigy, that started playing a piano when he was 3 years old, and at the end of his life, how he decided with an attitude to take his music into the Deep South. Now, this is at the time that Chubby Checker and all the blacks were doing their Motown, and Little Richard. He'd never even heard of these people. And as he was moving further into the Deep South, how things started to change, where they were billing him as a top entertainer, but he couldn't eat in the restaurant that was the place where he was going to play. And it goes downhill from there, and they get not a made man, but, an Italian off of the streets of New York. The movie is his driver and bouncer. And, the guy starts off as a bigot, and at the end of the movie, it's just an exceptional movie. I can't recommend it more. It surprised me. With all the comic book characters and all the rest of the kinds of movies of body count, revenge, Neil, I was just very, very, very surprised and left that theater feeling like I had a life-changing event in myself even.
Oh, sorry. Vince's connection screwed up here. I'm just going to bring the traffic in here.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, richardallenmiller.com. Rick, I was chatting with Jason during the break, and we were talking about some of the things in the book that I'm writing, and one of them is, well, it's really a book on living frugally. It's a book about, you don't have to do things just the way other people do them, just because that's the way they do them. You can think differently. And an example I was starting to give him was that when you get your oil changed, you bring it to one of those quick lubrication places. They get you in and out in 15 minutes, and you think that's great. But you can't get all the old oil out. So over the weekend, I was teaching a class here at the farm on oil changing, a small class. And I said, okay, so we're draining the oil out, and it's running out really fast now because the engine was hot. We put it up on the lift. And now it's a thin stream of oil. Now it's drip, 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 drip. When do you think the drain plug would be put in by those quick lube places? And they said, well, about now. So we put a clean can, under the oil drain plug and let it drip into the can. I said, well, we'll come out in an hour and we'll see what happens. Came out, and there was a half a cup to a cup of extra dirty, filthy oil that was in this can because we let it drip longer than the quick lube places would. And what I was telling Jason is that's some of the kinds of things that are going to be in this book, things that I do, that we do here at the farm, and some others do as well, but most people don't do, and they haven't thought about. Do you have any suggestions for adding items to the contents of this book, Rick?
Well, I use red line oil in my 280Z, and I don't need to change the oil. Mm-hmm. And so the whole thing, again, is using crap that you have to replace every 2,000 miles. And when you talk about things like that, and then for $5 more a can. You can use redline oil that's made for rocket ships. It doesn't break down. Now you've got an oil that doesn't need to have a can under it to catch the bad drip, because guess what? It doesn't break down, which means you don't have sludge. Yeah, the whole thing about quick Jiffy lube, all of that is designed to cause you further grief later. I'm watching my girlfriend's car. She has a brand new car, brought it brand new before she moved up here to Oregon, starting a new life kind of thing. And the dealership and their required maintenance on her car every so many thousand miles, etc., and how crappy a job a brand new dealership is doing on her car and make it wear out faster than it would on its own demise. The whole industry and everything, not just oil, has been designed for commercialism and is an argument against the concepts of capitalism. Look at what's going on this morning with stock exchange. You know, money and the whole nature of everything, the way we do business. Yes, your book is for survivalists only, the ones that want to survive. There's a lot of different levels of surviving, and there's a lot of different ways of living. And sometimes the most simplest things are the ones that are the most gratifying, ultimately. I think your book is going to be a useful how-to, but the key is to spoon-feed it with humor, because that's right. That's okay.
I agree.
Now you're getting the big picture, because if you can't laugh at yourself, what's wrong?
Yeah, it's got a section of things not to do, and that's the laughing at myself kinds of things, and it really is how to extract the maximum value out of a person's life. And
we missed the gate on that. You know, in terms of what is important and valued, we missed that.
Yeah.
Many faces.
RichardAllenMiller.com. RichardAlanMiller.com. We'll be right back, and I'll tell you just a quick view of homes and what I think of most homes when we come back. So, Rick, here's an example. I've been in a lot of houses. I've bought and sold a bunch of them. We've bought, Mrs. Finelli and I have bought a bunch of them. We've moved many times. Every house I've been in, every house I've bought and owned, every one of them had mistakes in it. Every one. Big mistakes. And they can be avoided. So, for example, just one simple example is the light in the kitchen. How many kitchens have one light in the center of the room? Why is that? Why aren't the lights over the counters in the cooking prep area? Well, because our lives have changed. Electricity has changed. We used to have smaller capacity fuse boxes and electrical circuit breaker panels than we have now. So that one light in the center of the kitchen, for me, is not adequate. That's just one example. Another example is, why do we put our refrigerators, another refrigerator, a second refrigerator, in one of two places? It's either in the basement or it's in the garage. Why? Why do we do that? Why, if we're gonna do it right and we're gonna build our own home, why would we let the builder or the architect dictate where the refrigerators go? So, for example, you've been in our kitchen, and we have two refrigeration units in the kitchen. One of them, and they're side by side, but they're separate. One of them is an all freezer, nothing but freezer, top to bottom, 17 cubic feet. And the one right next to it is all refrigerator. And one of them has a left-hand door, the one has a right-hand door, so the handles meet in the middle, and it looks like, a Sub-Zero system that's really, really expensive, but it's not. It's just all refrigerator and all freezer in the kitchen. Makes more sense to me. And those are, and the laundry rooms. Some people have a laundry room. Others don't. Others put the laundry in the basement. Why? Why put it in the basement? Why bring the laundry up and downstairs? Why not have a laundry room? And why not make the laundry room usable? Because every laundry room I've seen is wrong. Every one. You have any comments on that, Rick?
Well, you say tomato, I say tomato. I mean, we all of us have different ways we want to do things. For example, if I shot an elk, I wouldn't want to store it in my kitchen.
Right.
Well, then that's why I put mine in the basement. But, I'm just trying to make a metaphor here of why we do things. And habits are just that. And by the way, habits are arbitrary. And you can change a habit over a 3-month period. It takes that amount of hammering and trying to get you to change in the way you go to the toilet or the way you brush your teeth. It takes effort, because once you fall in the rut, just like all ruts, they get deeper.
Mm-hmm. So did you hear me ask you? I had a technical problem where I was disconnected from the network, and I was mentioning that Joey said on air that he is dyslexic, and I mentioned, I am too.
Joey's dyslexic? I wouldn't have thought so. He's ahead of the curve in many other ways, I'll tell you.
Well, yeah. That's true. Absolutely true. And I was wondering, since you're ahead of the curve, are you dyslexic, or were you? If you want to share that.
What? You mean, do I drool and yeah, I was a functioning savant. Yeah. We each of us have our crosses to bear. So I credit cross-eyed bear.
I was wondering, seriously, Rick, USA prepares instructors. We all get along, and when we're together, it's a hoot, right? And and all of us are, maybe at one time we were introverts. We fixed that, that's for sure. But we all get along, and I was wondering if one of the common threads that we've never discovered is that many of us might be dyslexic. Do you think that's a possibility?
No, I think it's much worse than that. That's what I think. I think we're really in bad shape, and we're going to need some help immediately. I'm supposed to keep you on the air while we get the Medic 1 unit out to you. So just keep him talking. Listen, man, in terms of, damn, I miss Matt Stein. He would come in right now with a snotty little, I just missed that guy. I don't know if you...
yeah, we all do.
It's, and I miss Missouri. And I miss the friendships I've made back there with you people. And while it's okay, and I feel close to you, I now can communicate with Joey. There was a 2-year period there where my email was being blocked. It's being blocked now with Linda Chesnick. It's being blocked by other... And I don't know why this is happening. It's interesting, the bear traps that are being thrown in front of me nowadays.
Okay.
Inconveniences? Yeah. I did when I was in graduate school. I remember we were supposed to do a mathematical thing, and I'm sitting here, and I actually proved that if you're standing with a jam sandwich and you drop that sandwich at 5 feet, it will always fall jam side down because of the moment of inertia. And I call that Miller's Law of Maximum Inconvenience. Yep. It's just the way things are. And, it's sort of like learning a lesson, and you never want to repeat an error. You don't want to make the same mistake twice, but really you need to learn it better. And, really learn your lesson by repeating your mistake a dozen times. Women, whatever. I am beginning to realize that we have a lot more choice going on here. You know, the politics of today is so embarrassing. I watched the presidential State of the Union, and I watched how the Democrats disrespected the president. And I am appalled at politics in general now. I never used to think of that as much because we could always agree to disagree in how we might want to go to the same place. We both, the Democrats and the Republicans, at one time were trying to go toward the same goals, doing it differently. Today, that is no longer true. And what it means is there is a distinction between globalism and nationalism. While I don't support nationalism and chest pounding and measuring the size of one's dick, I think that there's something wrong going on here, and we've been hijacked. And the concepts of Congress, like Pelosi, the biggest news story was how she applauded the president. And I took a closer look at that, and if that's all the news has to focus on to try to form a schism for selling more magazines, I think there's a problem with news reporting. And I remember a time when Charles Kuralt, on the road, was something you look forward to because of his positive spin on news. It wasn't about trying to make shock value of how many dead, how many got hurt, raped so many children. It was not sensationalism. It was about a good, warm, feely thing. And that was when Altered Walter Cronkite, Altered Walter, and you respected the news reporting. I, as one individual, no longer respect any news reporting that I'm seeing out there, including the alternate news. They're all a bunch of liar hooey. And all of them are there for agenda. And news reporting used to be about trying to do it without prejudice. That's gone. And now it's time I'm going to start saying something about it because I think it's terrible. And watching the way they will take David Bowie, who's dead now, was one of my heroes. David Bowie was not gay. They would presume a distinction between androgyny and sex preference. What's wrong with that news reporter or reporting in terms of his awareness or her awareness in that regard? I am watching the way they're doing the manipulation, and candidly, it's like turn the switch off, just like nuclear energy. It's a bunch of toxic hooey.
Rick, you mentioned a male sex organ. Okay, this is how far we have devolved. There's now a new set of emojis. Now people use these emojis like smiley faces and frowns, and I mean all these silly things that they attach to their communiques. Okay, well, there's a new emoji, and it's like, let's say you had a thimble, and you put it between your thumb and your forefinger, and you held it out in front of your face. So you've got a hand holding a thimble. Okay, then you take out the thimble, but you leave your hand in the same position. Well, that's a new emoji to show the size of one person, saying this is the size of your male sex organ. That's a new emoji. This is just stupid.
Yeah.
Absolutely
well, it's confusing
stupid.
the children. It's confusing the children, and they have enough problems to begin with that they don't need to wonder if they are 36 different genders.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the question. And this requires probably a lot of discussion. I made this statement that I believe that this is true. Now I'll just make the statement. And I'd love to hear your response because I have a feeling this could go for an hour. Have we crossed the line where the average person can no longer live with the technology that man has imposed on man? Have we crossed the line? I believe we have, where the technology is suffocating us and destroying us. Can we talk about that when we come back? Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, I made the statement, I believe we've crossed the line where the average person can no longer live with the technology that man has imposed on man. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So the microwave oven, we take it as it's a given. Almost everyone has one. And, previous to the microwave oven, you'd cook your meals at home. It'd be vegetables, meat, potatoes for dinner, maybe a dessert. Now we throw a burrito in the microwave oven, hit the start button, and there's dinner. There's dinner. We have Keurig instant 1-cup coffee makers. And all you do is you peel off the top, you pop in the cartridge, and it makes 1 cup of coffee. But what if you have 3 other people over? What do? Do you make 3 1-cups of coffee for them and 1 for yourself? That's 4 times 1 cup. And what about the phone book? Like, for example, I still know the telephone number of my boyfriend. And yes, I can use the term boyfriend because that's the term we used to use. When I was growing up and we were in high school and we were in elementary school, I had friends who were boys and they were boyfriends. Girls had friends that were girls and they were girlfriends. And even guys had girlfriends and girls had boyfriends. And that's what it was. So I had a boyfriend and we'd hang out together and we'd build machinery together. And I still know his telephone number. We used to have a phone book. Now we have a phone that has the phone numbers in the book, so we don't need to know the numbers. But I know your number, Rick. I know your number.
But, yeah, well, we've got your number, too.
So Rick, have we crossed that line where
you mean,
technology...
Are we playing hopscotch? Yeah, it's real serious. We're going from the frying pan into the fire. We used to concern ourselves with a nuclear winter and a nuclear weapon being detonated in the atmosphere and the fear that it would ignite the atmosphere and we would have a nuclear winter that surrounded the earth in a big ball of flame. There used to be a serious fear of that. And guess what? We're doing it right now with 5G. And just the news this morning on PG&E in California and the individuals that are now going to trial for murder. We are in a crossroad. And while technology is good, it's also bad. It has double face, just like that fence. That fence over there, it looks to be painted white. You can't see the other side of the fence, and you have no idea. You just make a presumption that the other side of that fence is white. It may not be. And that's the difference between man and God. You can't see both sides now. On Judy Collins. Listen, the problem is that everything that we do has 2 edges for it. And the best example is the military. When we develop a new technology, before anything else, it is examined on its potential as a weapon. Before it's even looked at in medicine, it's a weapon. And why is that? Why is that our first immediate consideration? The flaw is not in technology. That's where we need to begin changing things. Not in technology, but within ourselves. Because that is what I see. When I came out of graduate school, I was a young kid with dreams of saving the world. And whenever I got involved in physics, it became creepy with classified material because of its potential use as a weapon.
When we come back, Rick, I'd like to share with the class something that Home Depot is doing. According to the Wall Street Journal, Home Depot is in full-on panic mode after realizing what Americans don't know how to do. Unbelievable. Absolutely. Well, we'll devote a few minutes to that when we come back right after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. Class, when you hear this, you're going to be shocked, and you're going to realize how much trouble we're in. And this is a result of technology. We've crossed the line. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, and I mentioned that I'm very concerned about technology. I believe we've crossed the line where the average person can no longer deal with the oppression of the technology that man has unleashed and imposed on man. And here's an example. So Home Depot is in a full-on panic because they've figured out that their customers can no longer, or their potential customers, the millennials, cannot do the kinds of things that the previous generations can do. For example, use a tape measure, hammer nails, literally. And these are the kind of skills that, fathers would pass on to sons, moms would pass on to daughters, those kinds of things. Simple things, using a tape measure. So they literally have classes on how to do this. Now, top management originally thought that this is condescending. Really teach someone how to use a tape measure? Well, that's what they're doing. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. So they have in-store training and videos on how to use a measuring tape, how to mop a floor, how to hammer nails. Literally. I'm not exaggerating. Now, just to hammer home this point, I decided there's a vehicle here at the farm, and we're working on it. And I don't want to. I don't want to because it's extremely complicated, needlessly complicated. It's a Toyota. And if you read the reviews for cars, you'll find the Asian cars do really well in terms of the reviews of how maintenance-free they are, how long they last, how problematic they are not, that kind of thing. Okay. Well, this particular Toyota has a problem with a solenoid that regulates oil flow to the variable valve timing. So just during the top of the hour break, I just did a quick search, and I typed in Toyota VVT, variable valve timing. First result that I am looking at has 165,000 views. It's a YouTube video. It's called Know Your Toyota Mechanical Variable Valve Timing. 165,000 views. Now, I believe that if you add up all the views of all the different resources that people have created, like on YouTube, about how to fix the problems with the Toyota variable valve timing, you'll find it's like probably 500,000. So here we have a vehicle that is being touted as being really reliable and problem-free. What a great way to go. But why would there be so many videos on how to fix this problem? Now, this particular Toyota that we're looking at also has a leak in a valve cover gasket. Valve cover is on the top of the engine. And I decided, let me just see what other people have done to fix this valve cover gasket, stop it from leaking. All you do is replace the gasket. But to get at it, wow. Literally, you raise the hood, you disconnect the windshield wipers. Then you disconnect the windshield wiper actuator. Those are the arms that connect the left and right windshield wipers. Then you disconnect the windshield wiper motor and the wiring for it. Then you disconnect this piece of steel. It's like a guard. Then you disconnect all the wiring on the engine. Then you disconnect. It's like a 2-hour job to get to the parts so that you can replace the valve cover gaskets. Of course, you have to disconnect all the ignition coils, of which there are 6 on this 3-liter V6 engine, and the control wiring for that. and the power steering control. And the list goes on and on and on to replace I don't know, maybe it's a $4 gasket. Maybe if you want to buy both of them, it's $8. And that's what I'm saying, Rick, about the technology. I believe it's outstripped our ability to live with it. The average guy who has an oil leak on his Toyota is not going to be able to fix it, period.
Well, some of this is being done with intent so that you can't fix your own product. You have to either replace it or have an expert that's been trained to do this. And since it's supposed to be a quarter of an hour job, they have to bill you for 2 hours because of all the other protocols. And this is all being done with intent.
Okay.
You know,
so
I have a razor. I've been using the same electric razor for 40 years. I've watched how the razor itself is $39 and to replace the blades is $29. How's that work? Am I going to save $10 by buying a new razor or getting an old razor and replacing the blades in it? They've got you drawn and quartered, and they've sat in a boardroom for more than 3 weeks talking about exactly how we're going to remarket replacement blades in a.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's one of the points in the book I'm writing. What companies have done
the whole
what?
idea is to create it in a manner that we've compartmentalized knowledge base. Let's take it out of the high school, like shop and mechanical drawing, and watch what happens next to the penmanship and quality of you being able to go out and fix your own product. It's no longer like that, and it's wrong. In that sense of it, the technology is not outstripped our knowledge base of individuals, but there's a concerted effort to limit your education so the market exists.
Okay. Yesterday I was going to talk about this, and I did not. And I looked, here's what I typed in. I went to a search engine, and I typed in 4 words. Interior decorator services costs. I want to know, how much does it cost to have an interior decorator come out? Now, here's what it says. The average interior design cost is between $2,000 and $5,000, excluding furniture. Rick, we have gotten to the point where we have to hire somebody to tell us what to buy for our house. What kind of furniture we need to buy. I can't believe it. Now, this is not brand new. This has been going on for a while. But I don't understand. Then I decided, who are these designers? So I typed in something like this. Are interior decorators queer? And I get this website. It's called queerbio.com. And it says LGBTQ interior designers. And this article goes on to say, yeah, the interior decorator world is replete with homosexuals. That's what they do. They're able to design. So now, how do we get to this point? How do we get to this point where we have to hire interior decorators?
Yeah.
I don't get it. What happened to mom
Sure you do.
and dad?
Sure you do. That's why you're complaining.
Gosh. Any comments before we go on?
No,
cold
I'm going
weather
to
and
step
potato
back
chips?
on all of this, man. You already know how I feel. This is crazy.
All right. So here's something interesting. Cold weather. Well, people are buying cars, and I don't know why they're doing this, but they're buying electric cars. Makes no sense to me, because the I haven't measured it, but I'm willing to bet that the electromagnetic radiation from an electric car is off the charts. I'm willing to bet that, because it's got electric motors. And I know that I've measured the electromagnetic radiation with a tri-field meter in Dodge vehicles, in Audis, in Mercedes, in Chevrolets. And when you turn on your heating system or air conditioning system, just that little electric motor that blows air around to cool or heat the cabin puts the electromagnetic radiation off the chart. Okay, so I know that electric motors do this. Well, electric cars must be just like the equivalent of a microwave oven for electromagnetic radiation from these magnetic fields. Well, here's something that I don't think not everybody's considered. So when you have an electric vehicle and the weather gets cold, you can lose about 40% of the capacity of the battery because the weather's cold. Now, that's absolutely the same thing as a lead-acid battery when you go to start your car and the weather's cold. You know that, gosh, I hope it starts, and you know that the engine cranks with less vigor when it's cold. There's two reasons for that. One is more drag, more friction internally in the engine because the oil that lubricates the moving parts is cold. And the other is the battery loses current carrying and current storing capacity as the temperature plummets. So now we have electric cars that can lose 40% of the battery capacity because of cold weather. So if you've got one that'll go 100 miles, now you're looking at 60 miles. This is not so good. But I don't think the salespeople are saying, hey, listen, this thing is great. You're going to love it, until you get stranded because the weather got cold. And then what happens? So you're driving along the road and you're on the interstate and all of a sudden you realize, wow, the battery level's low and now your car can't go. And so someone comes over and says, hey, you need some help? And you go, yeah, can you give me a charge? How's that work? One more example of what I think we've passed the point with living with technology. And what vehicles am I talking about? Well, that would be the BMW i3S, the Chevrolet Bolt with a B, the Nissan Leaf, the Tesla Model S, and the VW e-Golf, E as an electric Golf. Rick, you have any thoughts about what you'd like to talk about when we come back?
No, I'm going to just wait.
You watch me get angry?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. We've got two calls on hold. Bob in Michigan, you're up first. Joey, you're up next. Bob, thank you for waiting patiently so long to be on the air with Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long, maybe 5 minutes. Hey, I got a whole bunch of things to run through here real quick here. I looked up that red line oil he was talking about. It's expensive, but I guess it's pretty awfully good, too.
Yeah, and AMSOIL, AMSOIL, also excellent oil.
Is that widely available, or do you have to order it online pretty much?
Rick, how do you get your red line oil?
I just go down to Bi-Mart, a local place, and they'll have red line oil there. It's about 4 times more expensive, but I don't need to change it, and I wouldn't dream of putting anything else in my 280Z.
How does that compare with the other synthetic oils that have been?
They're all made from jojoba and a desert crop, used mostly for rockets and high temperature situations where the oil cannot break down and form sludge. And that's why they use it. It's extremely high temperature resistant for breaking down sludge. That's what normally is what happens with oil. It breaks down, starts to collect small microparticles of your engine. And my 280Z has got over 300,000 miles on that engine, and the port pressure across the board is within 3 pounds. I can't believe how well balanced that engine is and the way Datsun made cars back then. It's different than today. And that engine will most likely go another 100,000 miles, 400,000 miles without a problem.
What's your opinion of a lot of these additives that are sold? I mean, there's so many different makes.
Yeah, they do different things. For me, I'm basic. And what I needed was a lubricant. I didn't need something to go in and dental floss my teeth in my car. And so for me, I just went ahead and stuck in red line oil. Believe this or not, I do change the red line oil, but I do that every 10 years. That's about right. And that's about right.
Rick, what about oil filters? Do you change them?
Yes, frequently. Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have a filter. You change your filters, yes.
How often in miles would you say you change your oil filter on that Datsun?
Today, now,
280Z?
10,000 miles, maybe every couple of years. I don't drive the 280Z like I used to, but the wonderful part is I sit in that car and it fires up just like when I bought it almost 40 years ago. I'm lucky. I'm the second owner of the car, and I have the history of where the car had been. It was a Ford racing team that had the car first, and the driver, who was pit crew racing chief for Ford Racing Team, is the one that gave it to me, essentially. He said I was the only one who knew how to drive that car correctly. I'm blessed. I got that car in 1984, and it has been the best car that I have ever driven. And I have driven all kinds of things, Lotus, all of it. That 280Z, for what it was back then, was possibly as well or better designed than the Mustang that Bullitt used.
Which Lotus did you drive?
I had several different forms of Lotus. Back then, I was driving Triumphs. I had a TR4, and then the Lotus that I had was a smaller, like I can't remember the model number, but it was
Elan?
like
Lotus Elan.
Yeah. It was an Elan. Yes, it was. Yeah, it wasn't that great a car. I didn't
What
like
a piece
it.
Of junk.
I had a
What
Tiger.
A piece of junk.
I had a Sunbeam. I had a Sunbeam Tiger. I had several others that I liked a lot. The Sunbeam Tiger was pretty good. So, but the 280Z is the. I can right now with and no engine. I can lift the front tires off the ground in 2 years. My 280Z.
I can speak with some authority on Lotus. I've worked on them, under them, raced them. What a piece of junk. Okay, we've got Bob in Michigan. Joey's on hold. Kyle's on hold. Bob will have to go quickly.
Sometime back I had inquired with you about the video about the guy was running his truck on just the fumes from the gas can. Did you ever find out? What did you find out about that?
Charles, I can have Charles from Ohio come on, and we can talk about that. You can run your vehicle on two things. You can superheat the fuel, and the other thing is you can run your car on wood smoke exhaust. So if you have a wood furnace, you can literally run a generator on that, but you've got to filter out the particulates in the smoke. Yeah, absolutely. If you can start it, you might need some starting fluid to start your generator, but then you can literally, if you've got an outdoor wood furnace, you can literally run it on the exhaust from a wood furnace.
Is there a website or a?
Just do a search on using.
Is that one of your experts on your?
No. We've had a guy at the expo who took a wood furnace, stuck it on the back of his truck, and piped the exhaust from the wood furnace into the intake of his truck, and he rode around that way. I mean, first of all, you've got to start the wood fire. I mean, you just can't get in your vehicle, turn the ignition, and go. You've got to build a wood fire and get it up to temperature, and then, but yes, you can. Yes, you can. But you really have to filter that smoke. And one way of doing that is you can have a cooling pipe from the wood stove, and then you can run it through a straw filter, meaning straw like grass, and that will trap. But you've got to use like a garbage can size filter. Then after you filter the smoke, it'll be relatively clean, and then you can use it for combustion. But yes, you can.
So there's a way to get more information on that.
Yeah. After the collapse, that'll be a great thing to have. Right now, it's not so convenient.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I guess I'm done then for now.
Great, Bob. Thanks so much for calling in.
Okay. Bye.
Joey in Michigan, welcome.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Rick, I need to pick your brain for a minute. But the first question is, I noticed one of the earlier commercials during the show was for Rick Miller and tea. That's probably not your tea, correct?
That's correct. That's not me.
Okay, so everybody should be aware of that. That's just piggybacking off of your name. All right, my question for you, though, is I was talking on Monday's show. I asked Norm, he makes a pyramid. He has a pyramid made out of copper. He attaches a Tesla coil to it, and it gives little pulses of energy. And he'd used that thing for years to regrow his telomeres. So my new science project is I want to create some kind of a tool to regrow my telomeres without getting electrically remodified. So the question is, how do I want to use a mat? Do I want to use a pyramid? Do I want to put a screen down or a solid piece of metal? Would I want to use quartz or crystals? If I use the quartz or crystals, because they tend to radiate energy better. Is there particular crystals? I mean...
Yeah. I would recommend you use a orgone accumulator. And that's where you build your structure, pyramid or whatever interesting geometrical structure you want with a non-organic, organic, non-organic, organic layers. And a good accumulator usually has at least 5 layers of each.
Well, but Norm, for years, he claims, just a silhouette out of copper pipe, a pyramid frame, and then he had a little pigtail hanging down from the top, like a little coil.
Yeah, that was Flanagan's work. We did studies. I had 3 graduate students do those studies years ago, and what we discovered was it was not about the pyramid that had to do with grain migration and cell salts and other kinds of organic and non-organic, but that if you made your enclosure with organic and inorganic material, like an orgone accumulator, that something paranormal occurred. And what we discovered was food would not rot. We would put food inside that device, and it would, for months without molds, whereas something else would have molds on it within a couple of days, like bread.
Take the Flanagan experiment. Did they use a Tesla coil to juice that thing? Or
no, it was Patrick Flanagan was doing pyramid power back then and was trying to advertise that the structure of a pyramid somehow had special properties to it. What we discovered, it was not the pyramid that did that. That had to do with grain migration. And what we discovered was that the orgone accumulator element of it was absolutely something paranormal is going on. And I, to this day, could not tell you why food will not rot. But if you put food inside an orgone accumulator device, a box, a square, a pyramid, it won't rot. About 10 times less. And how does that work? I have no idea, but that was reproducible and repeatable.
But I know the orgone box uses your body's energy. But we're talking about adding a pulsed energy from the Tesla coil.
Well, copper has special periodic chart properties. Again, I couldn't tell you how that worked.
All right, and then you've got different grades of copper. So how would you choose a copper, like the copper they used for the pyramids had a higher percentage of silver?
Yeah, see, that's why Cleopatra, apparently, went down the Colorado River, went down the Mississippi. There's evidence. They're looking for copper. That's why copper was an extremely important element used in the construction of things like pyramids. I have no idea what that means technically.
When you're shopping for copper and you call a copper store, what do you tell them? I need Cleopatra copper they use in the pyramids. I mean, where do you even find the information on what percentage copper to silver? Because apparently Copper Harbor, Michigan, and UP, and somewhere near Arizona Grand Canyon area are the only two places on the earth that copper was mined, and that's how they can trace it.
I can't. Anaconda, others. I couldn't answer that question from a technical point of view. From a gut point of view, I think 97%.
All right, back to charging the unit. If I'm not going to use an orgone box with wool and metal to create the box because I'm not using my energy. I'm charging my energy with this electrical, like a Tesla coil.
Yeah, but that coil might be enclosed in an orgone accumulator.
All right, and the juice zapping your body, how would that repair or cause your telomeres to regrow?
You're dealing with energies. I have, my own thing, but I'm not going to go public because I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's why I said I want to pick your brain. And I don't want
there it is. Picked.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Joey.
Is there anybody throughout the last 40 years of your travels, other than Norm, that's worked around that?
Yeah, and we can talk about that off the air if you'd like, and I'll try to put together a couple of links for you that might be useful for you to explore if you want. I don't want to read about you in the newspaper, though.
No, I don't want to read about being in a third or fourth dimension either. But I know since Flanagan came out with his last new device, and then he was in the hospital and almost died, they claim that's not the same guy anymore. It's like he's got a new twin out and about. All right.
The clone wars. Yeah, there it is, just like in the movies.
A stunt double, yeah. Or they zapped him. Well, I'll get on with this so Kyle can get his question in. They need to add more commercials to the show, Vince. I think they've made them a little longer, or they've added one more now because, the show's going by even faster. They're either going to have to make the show a half hour longer or take a commercial out. See you guys. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
There's shortages everywhere, but not of commercials.
They're just having more
Joey,
fun.
Thanks so much for being with us. Yeah, there goes Joey. Kyle in Montana, welcome. You're on with Doc Ram.
Good morning, gentlemen. Rick, I was going to tell you, back when I was going to college specifically for automatic transmissions, and we happened to have a day, this back in the 80s, and we had a day that was just called drivability. And I don't know how that kind of fit into the automatic transmission thing, but the boss, the teacher seemed to think that was a great thing. And the car that we tested was a 280Z. And so it was interesting. We went through all of the drivability of these things, and my college professor said back then, he said, of all the cars on the market today, this car, this 280Z, in my opinion, is the best built engine transmission design that's out there. And it was really amazing how efficient they were.
The Porsche 911 was 9 times more money off the shelf, and the 280Z outperformed them on the track. In history, last car standing, that kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah. Something happened. That 280, not the 240 or the 260, but the 280Z, 1976. That one, that car was the best designed. And the one I got was the one that won the steeplechase up Pikes Peak.
Sure. Hey, Rick, the main reason I called you here is I was just wondering about this the other day. I was talking it over with my wife. For a long time, months and months and months, we kept hearing all about Nibiru or Planet X and all of these things coming in and affecting our Earth. But man, the last 2 or 3 months, it seems, or longer, there hasn't been a peep out of that. And I was wondering, is there anything still, anybody watching that very much, or is it even,
every day?
A farce,
there's media on that, of course, every day. And the reason you're not hearing as much is because we are about to have an event. Whether it's Nibiru, they're already seeing lava underground in Ohio from Yellowstone. And last summer, when the fires were going on up in B.C., California, and Oregon, I was able to see 2 lava strikes.
There once was a congressman named Wiener who had a perverted demeanor. He was forced from the Hill for acting like Bill. Now Congress is one wiener leaner. Kyle, please continue.
That's a good one, Vince. It's like I kind of agree with Joey that, it's a good thing that GCN is so frugal, because when they had a sale on commercials, they must have went out and got a bunch of them. So
you guys are going to get
I'm
me
grateful.
fired.
No, I really do. I like GCN's a great company. It's smart. They really, truly are. And I'm grateful that they're on the air. Anyway, Vin, I was just curious, Rick, do you think on this event that you think is possibly going to happen, do you have an inkling of what you think that might be?
Yeah, I think we're going to have, we've already, as of last week, we've had a magnetic pole shift. That occurred, and is probably why everybody's been feeling weird, not really up to snuff. The electromagnetics are affecting biorhythms. You have a series of different biological clocks inside your body. Several of them are getting confusing messages like the light of day. Now, that's one thing. I think all of it is going to happen. I don't know about a pandemic. I know we are going to absolutely have a shift on geography. And I know that Yellowstone is going to explode shortly because they're seeing lava from Yellowstone as far as Ohio underground. The concern I have is the new Madrid fault line. And that I have like the Pacific Shelf, I don't know to the extent of the damage. The ocean currents are rebooting, and right as we speak, and that's one of the reasons we are seeing many day after tomorrows. The Earth right now is expanding because of the solar minimum of the sun streaming through deep space, going through a region of dark matter right now that is no longer being absorbed by the sun, but coming around the sun and pummeling the Earth. This is having an effect on all the earthquakes and volcanoes that are currently going off everywhere. We are overdue to the extent of how bad it's going to be. I can tell you that when you get 35 below zero in the United States, and it's not from wind chill, that's just literal temperatures, that is in itself a direct example of global warming bullshit. And when I say that, the Earth isn't going in global warming right now. How's that heat bill working for you?
Yeah, well, we're burning a little bit. Yeah, we're burning more wood, that's for sure. Now,
well, then there's your global warming on a practical level.
Yep.
Right. So, when you talk about global warming, why is that an inconvenient fact? Yeah, right. Congress has been hijacked. Our politics and law enforcement and medicine have been hijacked. And it's time for an internal, quiet revolution. and I'm mad as heck, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
So the answer is to move away from where people are.
Well,
Yes.
that's one idea. You know, it's going to be your neighbor that saves your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to get to know your neighbor, you know, whether you like him or not. That's going to be the person that saves your life.
Really good point.
Or kills you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you
Thank
know
you,
who he is
Vincent.
first, right? Dr. Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much. That's richardallenmiller.com. Kyle in Montana, thank you for being with us. Joey, thank you for being with us. Bob in Michigan, thank you for being with us. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.